by Australian Dentists.
This is AM Agenda. Thanks for your company this morning. Joining me now, Liberal MP Josh Frydenberg and Labor MP Ed Husic. Good to see you both.
Good morning.
Ed, this story about the Enterprise Migration Agreement, you heard what Scott Morrison had to say. It does seem that the government has used what should have been a good news story and stuffed it up. Messed up the message.
I think there was a lot of heat and fury initially, but we've just basically got on with the implementing the policy itself. It is a good policy from my perspective. As I've said in Parliament yesterday, my old man came here as a welder from the former Yugoslavia under a form of Enterprise Migration Agreement to work on the Snowies project. So we've done it in the past where we've needed labour to basically add to our own local workforce. This agreement provides for over 6,500 locals to get jobs, but if we can't get them there, then obviously we need to meet that shortfall for a project worth $9.5 billion.
Because I read your speech in the Parliament on this one. You're a strong supporter of it. Is it frustrating to you that you see the message being muddied by the announcement, the confusion as to what the Prime Minister knew when and what she knew, that the ministers can't get their act together?
From my perspective, particularly with this is the first agreement, so it's always going to be the hardest agreement to initially break ground. People want detail, understand that people want to know what protections there are for Australian workers. This is a great project in terms of the number of jobs it'll create, but the ongoing jobs and the 20 million worth of training that will be invested in Australian schools. So, once people start getting their minds around the detail, then it becomes a lot easier to deal with. So I just figure it's part of the process of introducing something as big as this.
It is certainly not isolated to the Labor Party, these concerns. As I mentioned to Scott Morrison, some of your colleagues, including Wacka Williams of New South Wales, others as well. Paul Neville, I think, was one of those who expressed concern within the coalition party room about the principle here that you're bringing in thousands of workers at the same time that others are losing their jobs.
But the principle is a good one, Kieran, namely that you are allowing a project to bring in workers in order to be delivered on time and on budget. And by bringing in 1,700 workers, you're creating 6,500 Australian jobs. If you don't bring in those workers, you will not be able to get that project up and running. Now, there are up to 30 projects that are apparently going to be open to an EMA. This is going to be an ongoing issue. But let's recap what exactly has happened here. Firstly, the Prime Minister has been contradicted by Chris Bowen as to what she knew when on the floor of the House. Secondly, you had ministers freelancing in support of an EMA, namely Martin Ferguson, Chris Evans and others. Then you had the unions, Paul Howes barking his what he wanted from the sidelines, namely for the government to walk away from this EMA. And now we have this story this morning that in caucus yesterday, the government has agreed to a subcommittee of backbenchers to basically police the implementation of the EMA.
But isn't this just part of, as Ed said, part of the discourse, that you have people within the Labor Party, they express the same sort of concerns, Kieran, as some of your own colleagues?
Kieran, they've bungled it and they've sent exactly the wrong message to business when you said at the start of the program that this was an opportunity to sell a positive message that in Australia you can invest and that the government will allow foreign workers to come in to enable a project to be viable. That's the good message, but the way this government has handled it, the way the Prime Minister's been contradicted by her own ministers, the way the Prime Minister's let her own ministers hang out there to dry is a very bad message and a sign of worse things to come for her.
Does it send a bad message to business that the government needs to have these various layers of overwatch of these agreements, that the subcommittee of the caucus needed to be established, a committee within Cabinet's now been tasked with oversight of these agreements as well? What does that say to business about any certainty that they've got on these agreements?
Well, two quick points. First, this agreement is going ahead to support a $9.5 billion project creating thousands of jobs here in Australia. It's going ahead. If you were to listen to Josh a few moments ago, you'd think it had been stopped and it wasn't proceeding. Not the case. The second is, the difference with us versus the coalition is that if there are people that have got views and different points of views, we work out a way to basically deal with that within the structure of government. Their view is suppress dissent. That is, don't allow for people to have their different views. You've quizzed him a number of times about the views that exist there, There's no point in hiding it. There are people that have different views on these agreements. They're entitled to those views, and we should be able to manage different viewpoints within our structures. So, frankly, we've got the way of going ahead on it. The other telling thing about the coalition's point of view is that what's interesting is that if you have a difference of opinion with business or anyone else in terms of the management of the economy, you don't then do anything that works for the better interest of the economy. And by that I mean they were quizzing us about the fact that we've had differences of opinion with Gina Reinhardt. Why do this agreement? Frankly, it's good for the country, and political arguments should be put to one side.
You can't even do classical farewell, mate.
I just want to pause our discussion for a moment. We're going to cross live to Washington, a very sombre story, and this is with me again Ed Husic and Josh Frydenberg. Ed, this is such a tragedy what we're seeing unfold in Syria. A lot of reaction to the massacre in Hula, but this is a year-long conflict. We've seen thousands of civilians killed.
Absolutely. And it's not just a tragedy, it's an outrage. We've seen in the last 24 hours, Senator Carr announced that we'll be expelling 2 Syrian diplomats. We've got travel and financial restrictions on about 106 individuals and entities. We've also taken those actions within the context of other actions taken by the international community. At a personal level, I think governments don't kill kids. Frankly, there's things that we've seen in the last few days where children have died as a result of government actions are simply an outrage. I think we've taken the steps at this point in time, but I actually am very concerned about moves to delay any action by, for example, going to investigations. We can see before our eyes what's happening here, and I do think that at some point the international community will need to take a harder stand on this. Because I've seen it elsewhere in the globe, and if we don't, this will just keep going on and on and on. The
dilemma, isn't it, Josh, as Jill referred to there, that this Assad regime has got such a lock on power. It's part of the Alawite Shiite sect within that religion. 7% of the population, but almost total control of the military and the power.
Absolutely, and that's why the Alawites are getting support from Iran, both material and moral, because of the Shiite linkages. And this is really opening up a broader schism within the Islamic world between the Sunni countries like Turkey and Egypt and the Shiite countries like Iran and their friends in Syria with the Alawite sect, as well as Iran's proxy in Lebanon, namely Hezbollah. And so this is where I think we really need to put more pressure, because obviously China and Russia are key here in terms of the action at this UN Security Council, but we need to expose Iran here for its role in supporting this very brutal Syrian regime. You see, Bashar al-Assad, who's the current leader of Syria, is a Western-trained, an English-trained doctor, but he's turned out to be as brutal as his father. His father, Hafez al-Assad, was responsible for killing more than 20,000 people in 1982 in a place called Hama. Now, what we're seeing with Hula is just a repeat of the brutality of Hafez al-Assad in Hama, and what I'm concerned about is because the Alawites have nowhere to go, this will be a fight to the death, and as you say, they are getting increased arms shipments from Russia. I mean, Russia has a naval base in Syria. The linkages with Russia are very deep, and these arms will continue to flow. Iran has apparently sent in fighters to support the Syrian regime, and unless there is major international pressure, and indeed, as the American general has said, I think overnight, perhaps military intervention in Syria, this won't be stopped.
But how do you achieve that when you've got that block at the UN Security Council of Russia?
Correct.
As I understand it, Qatar, Saudi Arabia already funneling. They are funneling some resources, those two nations at least, Sunni nations, to the opposition. But how coherent is the opposition there?
Well, who knows? And apparently
how unified is it?
Well, I think it's around the Sunni groups, and it's definitely getting external state support, but there's also rumours that Al-Qaeda is operating there as part of that Sunni group. So it's very, very messy indeed. And the problem after Libya is that while Russia and China supported the no-fly zone in Libya, they didn't support what actually turned out to be be a very concerted, united military effort to destroy the Gaddafi regime. And that's why they're very wary of a repeat.
And when you've got the question mark as to who's involved there, like Al-Qaeda, Josh mentioned, there's questions for the international community then. Do they really want to bring down the Assad regime when you don't know what's going to replace it?
Yeah.
Well, two things. Firstly, it highlights the problems with arms embargoes because I think they effectively help the strongest on the ground, as opposed to those that would be seeking to protect themselves or want to see change themselves. So that is an issue, and I think the talk about taking a stronger line in terms of the international community, looking more to a military response, I think is going to gain more currency. As to who fills the void, we could keep pondering that question and we'll still see people dying. We'll still see civilians die and be massacred in the way that they are. I think this is a really serious, and I just don't think that at this point, while we're trying to incrementally ratchet up the pressure, I think we are going to get to a point where we're going to have to answer some tough questions.
But there's no appetite for any sort of military intervention by the United States. With the presidential election just a few months away.
Well,
they are fatigued when it comes to
But Kieran, can I say it's become a really partisan issue at the moment within the United States because you've got Senator McCain, Mitt Romney and others saying that basically President Obama has had a timid response. So there's a lot of domestic pressure ratcheting up in the United States Congress for President Obama to do more. And the fact that the chief of the United States military came out last night basically saying perhaps military intervention here is a possibility, I do think opens another door, and we'll see how it plays out internationally over the next few days.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to watch. It is. As you said, an outrage, what we're seeing.
Well, the other thing I'm concerned about is there are about, at least this point, 100 Australians that are still in Syria. Oh. And certainly, you'd urge them to get out for their own safety and for their families' sake.
I think so that.
And we've got a lot of Syrian expats in Australia as well. I spoke to one of them this morning, very concerned about their relatives and so on. So our thoughts are with them as well this morning. Ed and Josh, thanks a lot for that, gentlemen. And I'm going to be speaking to the Shadow Foreign Minister, Julie Bishop, in our 9 o'clock bulletin, so just in about 5 minutes or so. So stay with us for that one. I'm Kieran Gilbert, and we'll see you next time for AIM Agenda.